And thank you, Floyd. I'm glad I remembered to give you a call, Floyd. I forgot all about sending you a warning order down the line earlier. Wasn't sure if you'd gotten the email I sent to you earlier.
Yeah, I got here about 2 minutes ago.
Oh, all right. Well, I'm glad you made it. I'm Myron Babcock. I'm here in Colorado Springs, President Treasurer of DSES for the engineering meeting for June 10th, 2024. We meet at 1830 Mountain Standard Daylight Time or Mountain Daylight Standard Time or 0030 UTC time. And on the second and fourth Monday of each month. The last two fourth Mondays we have not met due to people being out of town and doing other things. So hopefully we can have a science meeting coming up this in 2 weeks from tonight. So continuing with introductions. I see we have Nick Powell who joined us today. I haven't seen Nick in a while. Usually meet him at the club meetings, local Pikes Peak Radio Club meetings. And welcome Martin Flynn out in New Jersey. And I'll be sure to have your comments made before we get too involved in this agenda tonight, Martin. And Michelle, okay, good. How you doing, Michelle?
Doing really well.
So you're heading out to Utah next week? Is that when the conference starts?
Yeah, coming right up. I'll be driving out on Thursday, and then the exhibits will be on Friday and Saturday.
Okay.
I have a show and tell. There's an example printout of the brochure. Should look familiar. There'll be a number of these.
Okay.
And another quick show and tell. The poster.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, the background blurring is trying to interfere. It really is sharper than this. So anyway, here it is, and those will be coming with me, and they'll be at the table. I'm sure people will love it.
And I'll have you give a little more detail on what you're going to, besides representing DSES, what you're going to represent, what other organization you represent at this HamCon.
Oh yeah, I'm there to represent Open Research Institute, and we do open source digital radio work, primarily benefiting amateur radio. So we'll be having a small amount of demonstrations and handouts and just showing the work that we do. And the other person at the booth will be Dave Jensen from QRZ.com.
All right, that's great. I believe I met Dave here. He gave a presentation here in Colorado Springs several years ago, the local club meeting. Anyway, good afternoon and evening to you, Michelle. I haven't seen Mike Parsons for a while. He's been traveling. Good evening, Mike. Let me see you go across the top. Rick Hambley, a board member, is with us tonight. Paul Sabone, board member. Don Latham, board member. Bill Miller, board member, vice president. And Paul's also the VP marketing. And we have Bill, our webmaster in WT0DX. Floyd, our secretary, board member. And Barry from Seattle. Jason down in, I believe, La Junta. Ted Klein, you're up in Estes Park area. James, I haven't met you yet. Good evening to you. Justman, I believe we corresponded by email once. And I see Bob Haggart, our former board member. I don't recognize Jane Morris, W7TXT. And of course, Ray Ubrecken, AA0L's our chief engineer. And Alex, K6VHF from Arizona, from, boy, slipped my mind.
Chandler.
Yeah, Chandler. Yeah, I was going to say Mesa, but I know you're just a little south of Mesa. So good evening to you, Alex. And Roger Oakey, who is also active with the group. He is a board member for the Pikes Peak Radio Club, so he said he would not be here tonight. And a couple other folks who won't be here tonight do the same thing. So anybody else have anything to say in the introductions? Again, I want to say good evening to Nick Powell.
I see James Schultzman.
Yeah.
don't know if I said that right. James, I don't recognize yourself. Have you been on before? Maybe it's just me. And
No,
you're
I don't.
muted, by the way.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay. Got the mute turned off now. No, this is my first time. I've been kind of monitoring activities, and I'm interested in finding out more and possibly getting involved in some activities. Very interested in radio astronomy, radar astronomy, and related topics.
Very good. Yeah. Well, welcome.
Yeah, you found the right organization. So good evening to you. Where are
Thank
you
you.
located, James?
I'm in Denver.
Okay. Yeah, I remember, I believe, sending you an email of the notification.
Yeah, I appreciate you putting me on the mailing list. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Well, the introductions are done, and let me go back to the share menu here to show a little more of the agenda here. The update. Oh, yeah, save the disk removal. How can I forget that? The dish materials, everything except the hardware. I got the hardware here at my house. Everything is down at the site at Flishner site in Haswell. So thanks to Rick, Ray, and Chad, and RC, and Rick and his wife Elaine for running all that stuff down there. And I believe Ray had another person, but I don't remember who he was. So that was accomplished on this past Saturday. And
Myron,
yeah,
I have Paul's movie queued up if you want to see it.
yeah, I had it queued up too. Go ahead. You can send yours.
Oh, no, go ahead. You can.
Well, have yours ready because we'll see what happens on mine. If in fact it does come up. This is the day Ray and I were on this platform right here. Can you see it? Okay. Can you see the video? It's not
Yes.
playing yet. It's not playing yet.
It's
Yeah.
coming.
Blow it up to full screen if possible. Little icon in the lower left corner or lower icon.
How's that?
That's good.
Ray and I were up here elucidating the hardware, and since this dish hasn't moved in many years, it took a little effort, and it was cankered in the bolts that were holding it. There were 8 main bolts holding it, and 6 at the hub. Those were all released. The nuts were taken off, and it was just kind of like the bolts cockeyed in the holes were holding it. So I took about a 5-pound sledge and started banging on the back of that thing, and let's see what happened. It broke free. And our skillful crane operator was able to make the proper adjustments to get it in the third bath position. Can you hear the audio?
Yeah, Myron, there's some audio there, but it's just kind of cutting you out a little bit.
Yeah, it's weak.
There's a setting to allow audio from videos in
What was that? What was that, Paul?
So,
When you do the share, there's a button you got to hit to share audio.
so I had a question. Was that who made that dish? Did he made that himself, or did he rely on a manufacturer? Or who manufactured? Where did it come from?
Ray, you want to talk about that since you are familiar with the Kennedy dish? Was Ray here? Yeah, Ray's here. Ray, can you answer that question? Can anybody hear me?
Now I can get it. I had to click on some extra things, little pop-up that came up. Yeah, that was made by Antenna Systems. The company that actually was kind of born out of the original company that made the dish, Kennedy, DS Kennedy, I think it was, something like that. And they only lasted about maybe 10 years, something like that, and had some financial problems or whatever. Anyway, this Antenna Systems company then bought or had hired some of the engineers, and they then produced a satellite dish or a tropospheric scatter dish, very similar to the 28-foot Kennedy dish, but this one is actually 30 feet in diameter, and it was made that way to prevent some patent infringement issues, I think, something like that. Anyway, this was built probably back in the 60 to 70 range, some 60s or 70s range, and it is a 30-foot, but it's a copy kind of the 28-foot Kennedy dish.
So, if I understand correctly, this was a professionally manufactured dish that somehow he got his hands on that was installed at that facility where he lives. Is that correct?
That is correct. There's quite a few people. K2UYH had a 28-foot Kennedy, and K5SO, is it? Something like that, down in Espinosa, New Mexico, also has one, 28-foot, I think, Kennedy dish, but this is the 30-foot version of that same dish, and it was made commercially, yes.
So, were these primarily developed for troposcatter use? Is that, it sounds like that's what they were designed for.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, Paul did a lot of research on that, and he had it on the internet. I got his email. Maybe you got it. I think he sent it out to everybody, but it was kind of a history of this particular company and the dishes that they made. They made everything up to, I think, a 60-footer.
Uh-huh. Huh.
It was actually on the ship too, I believe.
Yeah, I just don't know how he got a hold of it, but it's interesting that he did. And
they were commercially available for a while,
Yeah.
and hams bought them when they weren't any longer used. You know, they weren't
Right.
good for real high frequencies
right.
because of the mesh type structure that they're built out of,
Uh-huh.
but they're probably good to like 2 or 3 gigs, somewhere in there. And then when they went up above those frequencies, why these became available. We got one.
So could these antennas in their surfaces be, how do I put it, re-engineered to support higher frequencies like X or Ka band or Ku band?
As long as you were able to keep the surface accuracy down, the RMS accuracy of the surface real low compared to the frequency, but I don't know that these would be useful. You'd have to recover it with something,
Right.
and
Yeah,
pay more attention to the surface accuracy.
exactly. Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I understand.
It's
I was
a
just
lot of
curious.
aluminum foil.
Aluminum foil. Yeah, perfect.
Ray, did you measure the FD ratio, the antenna?
Say that again.
To measure, what's the FD ratio for that?
The F/D ratio is very similar to other dishes. I think 0.42, something like that.
All right, that's perfect for the feed we use. All right, great.
Yeah, it's great dish because the same basic. Our other one is 0.41, I believe, and this is 0.42, so it's very, very close.
Yeah, 0.4 is great. Yeah, about 0.44. Yeah, 0.3 it's kind of shallow, so but not great, but 0.4 is great. Well, we're gonna have fun with that.
Yep.
And we got extra feeds to go with it too.
Yeah, we did get 3 feeds with it. We got two 1296 feeds and a 2304, I believe.
Oh, great. So all I need to finish the 2300, it's almost done, but 90%. And the 430 megahertz done too. So and then needed to build the feed for it, or you have a feed, I guess, Ray, you showed me before. So we're pretty much ready to fire up those bands.
We are ready to go.
Hey, Ray, I have a question.
Yeah.
Yes, Saturday, the team that did the unloading, there was a young gentleman there who I didn't know. I need his name and call sign for the report.
Yeah, his name is Vlad, VLAD. And I can't remember, it's just exactly how it's, Myron's probably got it on the roster there someplace.
He's our member. Yeah.
Yes,
Okay. Yeah. I got it on the member. I'll email you that.
starts with a K.
Yeah, I'll email you that, Rick.
Thank you. Because we've got, another 100 pictures and Elaine's writing up the final report.
Okay.
Excellent.
Yeah, the lads first met him at a moon bounce several years ago. Very, very interested in guy to talk to. Russian descent, Ukrainian descent, can't remember which one.
Yes, from over, Georgia, Ukraine, I think maybe.
Yeah.
And very knowledgeable. He was born in this country, but he's a very, very knowledgeable guy, and he and Alex love to communicate.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so you guys met already. I talked to his Bruce Clark, the Silent Key K0 YW, who owned the dish. The dish was put up in 1998 by Bruce Clark, and according to, and he knew Joe Martin, the guy who owns the 28-foot dish down in New Mexico, and they communicated quite a bit. And Patty told me, the wife of the Silent Key, told me that he had worked, there were 78 of these dishes around. Most of the hams owned them, and she said he communicated with all 78 dishes. Other hams told me Bruce used this dish up to 3 gigahertz on moon bounce from other hams who worked Bruce years ago. This dish was not operational when we showed up. There was some issues with the elevation jack screw. But other than that, it was in fairly decent shape. It was in a stowed position, pointing towards the horizon, secured with a large steel pipe with a lot of cables holding it in place, fill strand. And overall, it came apart pretty easy once we got it on the ground. So we showed up Sunday evening on June 23rd, after a 6-hour drive from Colorado Springs. We tried to meet the crane operator there earlier in the afternoon, but he didn't show up till about 7:30, 8 o'clock. So after we ate, we went back out and talked to the guy. And we really was in a conundrum trying to figure out how we're going to do this with just a crane in place. And we told him that it was not possible. And he said, yeah, it's not possible unless we have something for us to get up there on. And what we got up there on, and unfortunately, I don't have very many pictures here because I was out of town. And if somebody has, Paul or Rick has more pictures to put up about the process, feel free to do that. But right now, I don't have any more pictures other than this video. So Ray and I were on to spend a lot of hours up here on the platform. The forklift, the four-wheel forklift was driven by our crew. We had 2 guys. It was delivered about 10:30 in the morning. And the forklift owner said he cannot stay there to operate it all day. He checked 2 of our members out, and they operated the forklift. It was very easy to do, to get around. And with this bucket up here, this 2-man lift on the end of the forks secured, we were able to do a lot more than we would have without it. We wouldn't be able to do anything without this. So it was done by 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We were sitting on the ground. We started about 10:30, and we worked through lunch. I think about every day we were there, we worked through lunch. Then showing up about 8:30 each day to do the work. Then Tuesday we went back and took it apart, and by 3 o'clock in the afternoon it was all taken apart, and most of it was loaded on trailers. Went back Wednesday morning, finished the loading. I was thinking we needed a box truck or some other form of transportation. As it turned out, everything went on the 3 trailers we had. And again, I want to thank Rick and Elaine Hambley for the driving the 1 trailer, Chaz WD0C driving Ray's other trailer, and Ray and RC Teal driving the other vehicle with the other trailer, smaller trailer. So, and Roger Oakey and Paul Sabone, they both drove down there. We spent 3 nights. 2 nights were in a bed and breakfast, 8 person. We had 8 people in this bed and breakfast. It was 12 beds, but he had our own bed, and we managed to survive 2 nights together in there. Then the next night we could not stay there. The 3rd night, and we ended up staying at the local casino where we had breakfast every morning. So as far as expenses go, the crane and the forklift was a little more than I planned, but it was $33.70 for the rental of both those items. So far, our donations tonight have exceeded $4,200. I expect more donations to come in. Hopefully they will. By the time total expenses I've totaled up right now is about $1,600 shy of what we need, but we got plenty of money in the account to cover the expenses while we continue to receive donations. So I want to thank everybody for donating. We've had donations from around the world. When I mean around the world, Europe. I want to say maybe South America, all Canada, and all over the country. A lot of moon bouncers, EME folks, a lot of VHF, UHFers, terrestrial type guys, and they were all contributed money. And I want to thank again everybody for donating what they can. So every little bit helps. So anybody have any questions? Anybody, any guy, crew, have any more pictures they want to share? We'll have, there's a Dropbox, which I don't, so we're going to make that available or somewhere on the website, Bill, or on the website, maybe we can put some additional pictures up there of what we did.
Yeah, I can put a gallery of pictures together, you know, from Rick and Elaine. The only problem is I have too many.
Yeah, I know. I want to thank Elaine. Man, she was busy taking pictures. The video I showed you, Paul, you took that video, didn't you?
Yep. Yep.
Okay, and thank you for doing that. I did not take my camera up there on the lift till the very end because I figured I didn't want anybody. In fact, my wife called me as I was getting ready to wail on the back of the dish. She was trying to fly back from Reno and I couldn't make the flight. So I ignored her call and she reminded me about that later. So anyway, that's another story. So anyway, we had a good time down there. Nobody got hurt. That's the most important thing. Everybody was back in Colorado Springs by about 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock on Wednesday. And it was warm down there. Monday and Tuesday was warm. You might know the day we left, it was nice and cool, overcast skies. But it was, we managed to get everything loaded up. So,
hey, question.
Yes.
Hi, this is Barry in Seattle. I'm curious, what happened to the tower that's showing in the picture? Is that taken down and away too?
Rick, you want to talk about that?
It depends on what you mean by tower. The pedestal for the dish, of course, was recovered. In some of the pictures, there's a tower, a ham radio tower, a crank up tower, and I purchased that. And Ray and I are going down to get it in a few weeks.
Yeah, that tower, we could not stay around for that tower because we had no way to get it back to Colorado Springs. And actual acquisition of that tower is unknown at that time. And that's the telescoping, was that an 80-footer, 70-footer?
80-foot.
80-foot telescoping tower. And that's currently holding a log periodic antenna. And that's sitting real close. In fact, the elements were kind of in the way a little bit of the dish, but we managed not to damage it at all. The actual tower the dish was on is a 25-foot steel tower, very, very heavy. It came apart in 2 sections, the lower section and the upper section. And the crane took that off the concrete pad, 10 by 10 foot concrete pad, and placed it on the trailer. And then we tore apart the lower section and placed those 3 sections and tied them, cargo strapped them to the trailer, to the rest of the tower. And that's how we got that back. And then yesterday, or Saturday, is when they took that off, and Ray and helped. Ray, you want to talk about how the dismantling and all that went when you got to Haswell Saturday?
Yeah, the sun was beating down on us the same way it was. Not a cloud in the sky, really. And so we got down there about close to noon, and it took us a couple 2 hours, 2.5, 2, something like that, to dismantle or take everything off of the trailers. We set the tower section down in a couple of railroad ties, and then the other pieces are out right close to it near the E. Callisto antenna that we were building. And then we over near the interferometer dish that we're also building, 13-foot interferometer dish, we put the rest of the parts and we set them on some of the old tower sections that were down there, the Roan 25 and Roan 6 tower sections. And so we set everything over there and we strapped it all together good and tight so that it couldn't break and fall over. And so all the weights, the extra weights and everything are down there, with the exception of the two heavy weights that you see in the pictures. And those are still in Ignacio. And I'm not sure whether we're going to bring those back or not. But anyway, those are 600 pounds or so a piece. And we have no way other than a crane of getting them onto trailers and things. They're very difficult. So I'm not sure yet what we're going to do with those counterbalances, but we'll discuss that in the future. We can also build them here, so it's not a major problem.
Okay, thanks, Ray. And Rick got his trailer back empty now, and I want to thank. Yeah, so Elaine was with you, and she took a lot more pictures and got a write a report as well.
Yes,
That, Rick?
yes. As soon as I get the name of that final gentleman who was on the unloading team, we'll have another report that can go on the website to complete the project report. And we'll have many more pictures, and I will put them in the same shared Dropbox where all the other pictures are. And if anyone does not have a link to that, it's open to anyone. Just send me an email and I'll give you the link. But I think all the board and most of the people who are out there got the link already.
And for those who need that link, you can always send it to board@dses.science, and that'll go straight to Rick as well. And he'll be able to get that, and a lot of pictures there. And we documented this, and one thing we wanted to do is make sure we knew how to, we have documentation to put this back together. Well, most of the folks were tearing it apart before I got into the ratchet and the air hammer or the air ratchet to take the nuts and bolts on this thing apart. I was going around with colored pins, marking all the pieces and parts and numbering them. So hopefully we'll have some sort of semblance on how to put this thing back together. After I realized, after all said and done this past week, that it did not number the center section, the 18-inch diameter section there where the parts went on that. So I think we can figure that out. So this is what you see here. 24 of these pedals, approximately 15-foot length. This is the Roan 25 tower here that next to it was the Ray was talking about, where this stuff is sitting on. We wanted to get it off the ground, strap it together so all these parts and pieces won't end up somewhere in Kansas. And then and hopefully we'll make a decision sometime in the near future where we're going to put it and how we're going to do it. This is a project in the future. It's not going to happen anytime soon, or maybe next summer, maybe late next summer. We'll have an idea what we're going to do. We've got a lot going on right now, and the main project right now is to finish the building, which Bill will talk about here shortly. We got some other things going on as well. So this is a So this, okay, I understand. So the tower is over here. I see the tower over to the right of the people standing. You can see the tower, the 25-foot tower there laying on the ground. That sucker is heavy. That's what, 2,000 pounds by itself. The dish is about what, 2,400 pounds, 2,200 pounds?
2,400 according to the crane operator.
Okay, 24. It's well within the crane. The crane we had was 20-some thousand pound crane. Brandon, the crane operator from Head Crane Services, he was very good. He stuck with us till the very end. And then after after I wrote a check to him, he departed the area and he was on to his next job, getting ready for the next job tomorrow. So yeah, thanks for these pictures, Rick. Really appreciate it. That really documents it for everybody involved. And this is the first. This tower here is the one that Ray was talking about, where the new project was. And we'll probably talk about that later on. So that's why. Is that what, 20 feet or 15 feet of Roan 25 there, Ray, sticking up out of the ground next to the tower?
Are you referring to the
Yeah. on
E.
the left.
Callisto and
Yeah,
that tower.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a couple of pieces of it's 1.5 pieces of Roan 25, and then there's a special aluminum tower that we just had a section or partial section of that I'm using as the 45, basically 50-degree angle
Okay.
for the polar mount. Yeah, that's mounted up there. It looks like it's straight up and down right now, but it actually bends over
Yeah.
40, about a 50-degree angle.
So, any questions from anybody about this project?
Can you say again, what is the size of the mesh?
About 3/8.
I have a picture with a tape measure on the mesh, but it's not available yet. It will be available in a couple of days. We're trying to sort out all the pictures, right? We did that while we were unloading. I think it's pretty small mesh, but
It's
we'll
a
have a
little bigger.
picture.
Yeah, the mesh is a little bigger than the 60-footer.
Yeah, we'll have the picture with the tape measure on it in a few days online.
And while we were there, Patty directed us into the ham shack, and we obtained whatever documentation we could find that Bruce Clark had for this. We got the rotor control systems. What else did we get? Paul, you dug all that stuff out of there, out of the ham shack.
Yeah, there was 3 things: the power supply and the two controllers, and I'm not exactly sure what they were exactly, but they were the elevation and azimuth controllers.
Okay. There was a lot of 1 5/8 heliacs, but that was not available. What was connected to the dish going to the ham shack was pretty sad shape. We left that there because it was buried under a little building. It could only do so much. So we cleaned up the site as best we could. Hopefully it'll be, and Patty was in agreement with what we did. As far as those other counterbalances, well, I guess Ray and Rick can talk to Andre about that when you show up there next month or at the end of the month, this month, and figure out what they're going to do with those. But we can make counterbalances here.
Well, we also got another mast for our other tower.
Yeah, we picked up aluminum 15 and 16-foot mast, Schedule 80. And we also got 2 sections of Roan 45 tower. And that tower was strapped to the big steel tower. He was using that as a ladder to get to the top of that. So we got 2 sections of Roan 45 tower. So that was a bonus, added bonus as well. Important thing, again, I said, everybody got to and from there safely. We had a lot of issues there for a while. We thought we were going to not be able to do it, but we overcame that. And thanks to everybody who was there. And it was an interesting project. One of the bigger projects we've taken on off-site since I've been associated with DSES and 14 years with the organization.
I want to point out, Myron, when we got there and all 8 of us sat around looking at that fish, we almost went home.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We all decided that is not going to happen with 8 guys whose average age is 75 years old.
Well, the average age of the 2 people working the lift on top of that 20-foot lift was 80 years old. The average age was 80.
Well, I was giving credit to that one young 65-year-old guy.
Yeah, I think the youngest was 65. So yeah.
I can't believe that we did that team pulled it off.
Yeah. So yeah, a bunch of old parts did it. So
isn't 80 the new 50?
Yeah, that's the 80s the new 50. Yeah. Anyway, that's all I have for that project. So we can continue on unless somebody else, we can talk about it later on. Thanks for the pictures, Rick. Thanks, Paul, for the video.
My pictures, Myron, I was displaying mine. Also, one thing I have to mention is that now we have the task of putting it back up and the expense of doing that. And that's going to require a crane, a scissor lift, or a bucket, and a lot of concrete.
Yeah, yeah,
So
we got,
once we get the concrete understood, and how much it's going to take, and what the design of the mounting for the pedestal is, and the foundation, then we'll start a new campaign to raise the money to
yeah,
re-erect.
I was just wondering about that. Would it be possible to put four sonotubes down and put the four legs of the tower to the sonotubes that were filled with concrete? Make it
I don't
make
think
it
that will be enough.
Something
make
similar
it
to
deep
that.
enough? Can you make the
He
center
had,
deep enough?
well, he had 37 yards of concrete, plus the steel cage and the mounting bolts. And if that were in Colorado Springs, it would cost us about $5,000 just for the concrete. But the
Sure.
concrete trucks have to drive a couple hours to get there. So and we need at least 4 trucks. So we're gonna be, the base alone is gonna be close to $10,000. But after that, it's mostly we put it up, same way we took it down.
Yeah, the tower is actually 3 legs. It's triangular.
Right.
Oh, well,
Well, and
That's-
Don, if the typical way this is done is you use a post hole digger, and you put down piers and put a platform on top of the piers, and the depth of the piers helps, and that saves on concrete. So somebody's got to
Yeah.
look at this from a civil engineering standpoint. To figure out what we really need.
yeah, we're gonna get a professional civil
Okay.
engineering plan to do this. I think once we get a plan from a professional, and I both have contacts, and I think Bill has a contact who livelihood is building buildings and building bridges. And he does a lot of architect or a lot of designing. So I'm going to contact him and give him the plans and what I know, and maybe he can come back with some suggestions to us for little or no price at all. So we can get an idea, then we'll go from there. But we're looking at, as Bill said, it's going to require another fundraising event, whether it be a grant proposal in addition to fundraising. But that's why we're looking at 18 months, 2 years or more down the road to do this, because we got to get the building done first. We've been so let me go into the building project. Is there no other questions? But if there's something later on in the meeting, we'll have open discussion. We can jump back to this if needed. So, Bill, go ahead and carry on.
Okay, I'm going to show you some pictures. This is what the building looked like as we were starting to mask off the windows, the outlets, cover the floor. There's the DeWalt vacuum cleaner that Don sent us. And that really helped out a lot because I was able to get all the miller moths and dust and everything off the girders before they sprayed the foam on. This is what the building looks like as a raw building without the spray foam. And it's pretty clean and looks pretty nice. Here's some of our framing we put in for the kitchen and the bathroom. And you can just see what the building looks like before you actually foam it. And if I go back one, this is our Ethernet lines that come out of the wall and go to all corners of the building for cameras and wired Ethernet hookups. There's the 200 amp panel on the back wall. So you can see what the building looks like. This is the back door out of the radio room. These are the LED light fixtures in the ceiling, all masked off for the foam. And they did a pretty good job of masking everything off and covering everything so that we didn't get foam all over everything. This is the mezzanine over the kitchen, the bathroom, where we have a little bit of storage on top here for feed antennas and such. You can see that. That's what it looks like with a wide angle lens. There's a bird on the antenna I just happened to take. And then this is a table we just used so we don't have to stoop and pick things up off the floor constantly as we're building stuff. A lot of plumbing. Anyway, let me go out of that and I'll go over here let me stop this share. And I'll go to another panel and you'll see what it looks like with the foam insulation. And that's a whole nother animal. So here you see the building after we put the foam insulation in. And it's about 2 inches of foam on the, this is polyurethane foam on the walls, about 3 inches in the ceiling. And then I had them paint the ceiling white with a fire resistant paint. And part of the reason for that is I didn't want to have the expense of finishing the ceiling. This will reflect enough light with the LED light fixtures that we'll get plenty of light down in the room, and we won't have to have a ceiling if at a later time we want to make it look more finished and not so bumpy. We can always put a drop ceiling in it, but I think this is sufficient for our use. This shows the rooms. This is the back of the radio room again. That is the east wall of the main classroom. That's the kitchen on the left, bathroom on the right. And that's the entry into the radio room out of the main classroom. And then this is the classroom looking out the front door. And here's what I was doing. I was prototyping the wall by scraping off some of the foam, you see here. And that stuff is harder than stone. It's really hard to scrape off. And those are some of the Ethernet wires I had to work around. Let's raise Calypso antenna and get further ahead here. And then I prototyped the wall. And you see here, there's 2x3 studs that I screwed into the steel girders with self-drilling screws. And the idea here was to frame in the windows and frame it in so that we could put wall paneling on there. There you see the framing around, and it turns out that a 2x3 stud is a perfect distance to fill the gap between the inner girder and the outer girder. The building is built with double framed 2¼ inch steel girders, and we did that to make it stronger to the wind loads out there. But that presents a problem in that all of the outlets and everything sit out on the further out girder. So the wall is actually 5½ inches thick. Well, this 2x3 stud on top of the inside girder here is a perfect distance to extend out so we can tie paneling to it. And there you can see the gap and how I got around some of the wiring. There's an example where it gets around the Ethernet wiring in blue there. And then you can see down the wall here, those 2x3s, and eventually I put this wallboard on. This is a plywood. It's I think it's 5/16 inch thick T111 primered outdoor siding, and that costs about $47 a sheet, and was the cheapest, strongest thing that I could get my hands on to make wall paneling out of. And so that's what the wall will look like, but we'll paint this a contrasting color to the tan of the siding, of the steel siding over here, and make it look real nice. So we'll finish the building off with that. But there you can kind of see from my prototype wall what it'll look like. Now, last week I went down and met the contractor from La Junta, who gave me a quote. And to finish the radio room, his quote is about $8,000. And to finish the classroom and the kitchen and bath is about $16,000. So that's about, what does that come out? That's or $15,000, excuse me. So that comes out about $24,000, $23,000 for the labor to finish the building. That doesn't include materials. And that would put all the wall paneling on, put the steel siding up on the partition walls, and wall paneling on the front and back walls, east or the south and north walls, and finish the kitchen and the bathroom studding off with sheetrock, and finishing off the sheetrock, painting, and sealing the floor. So that would get us to almost 100%, and then we still have the the expense of the materials for the cabinets of the kitchen and the bathroom and the toilet and the sink and those sorts of things for the bathroom. And then the next thing is the heat pumps. So we're coming in, landing almost right on budget. I'm hoping I don't go over. If we start going over, I'm going to ask for some labor to make up for the difference. And but I think we'll be okay. But there you can see my prototype wall. So that's about where we are, and hopefully the contractor can start this week and finish this off. Any questions on that? I've overwhelmed you.
Yeah, as with all these projects, parts of this project Bill's been working on, he's encountered a lot of difficulties in finding competent contractors and materials, and some of the cost of materials in some of these locations that he's looking at far exceeds what we can get here locally. So we're considering transporting those materials down so the current contractor will, if he buys them locally, Bill said he's going to be almost twice as much as what we paid for, could buy them here locally.
Yeah, I got some of the quotes from Sutherland, and this wall board was about twice the cost that it is at Home Depot in Colorado Springs. And we have a pro account at both Home Depot, Lowe's, Blazer Electric, and what else do I have a pro account? Oh, at Ryder Steel in Lamar. And also have a tax-free account, but some things don't give me a discount on the pro account, and some things don't give me a discount for the tax. So like things like the garage door as an example, they didn't give us a tax-free status on the garage door, even though I had the pro account with Home Depot. So for the most part, we haven't paid a lot of sales tax on most materials.
And the floor needs to get done. What does it look like on the floor? That's going to be done when all the interior finishing is done.
Yeah, once it gets all as you can see, we have a lot of debris that happens as you do this construction. And we'll get all the walls put up and everything, and then we'll probably end up with some sort of a sealant paint for the floor. And there's a few cracks in the floor we might have to fill with epoxy, but I'm not doing an epoxy floor or anything like that. It'll be more like the floor you'd encounter if you went to one of the big box stores. It's concrete with a kind of a shiny sealant on it, just to keep it from deteriorating and under traffic load.
Keep the dust down as well. All right. Any questions from any of the members tonight on this project? We try to send out notices. Bill does when he's looking for help to go down there. Occasionally he has help down there, and other times he's down there by himself or with the contractor. So very important to try to be available if you can. I know it's hit and miss on your schedule or other people's schedule. So.
You know, I just wanted to show you the environment. This is the outside of one of the doors. It's a fiberglass door with a wood frame. And this is outside the building on the south or on the north side. And that door's been installed for just under a year. And you can see what's happened to the
primer coat. And
this is just primer, which should be pretty sticky to the wood, but just from the wind load and the continuous wind, this is actually on a non-sunny side of the building. And you can see what happens with the environment out there. So we got to get those repainted and all that. That'll be one of the finish items that we'll have to do is paint all the exterior trim and fix it up.
The environmental conditions down there are brutal at times.
Brutal.
What's the temperature you've encountered inside that building?
Well, when we were there on Saturday unloading the dish, the inside of the building was probably under 80 degrees, but the outside temperature when we got there was probably 94. When I left the site about 4:30, it was 99 degrees, and coming into Sugar City and Ordway, it was over 100 degrees late in the afternoon on Saturday. And the wind was blowing. It was blowing about maybe 15 miles an hour.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to stop the share and leave it open for your questions.
Okay, Bill, thanks a lot for that update. Current status of dish feed and use. Ray, what are we doing for any pulsars looking? Or are we still in the I have forgot to talk to Glenn and Lewis on their what they've been doing. Have you heard anything from them about what their updates on what they've been doing for the
No, I've not heard anything from them. And I still have to put another preamp. We can use 1420 really well, but the 1600 meg stuff was a little bit shy on gain up at the feed because of the higher frequency, the higher the loss in the 200 and some foot cable run that we have of half-inch heliacs, and there's actually a mix of RG213 and half-inch heliacs coming down, and so we suffer more than 10 dB worth of loss in that. And so I'm going to add another amplifier up there to get the total preamp gain up at the feed around 50 dB on 1667, 1665 megahertz. And so that we can do the hydroxyl lines and start work on that. But I haven't talked to Dan, and I don't think he's been down doing any more pulsars. Excuse me. But the pulsar that we did do, that we did several times, was the most beautiful trace we've ever had on any pulsars. And they were rather quick, 10 to 15 minutes, but they were absolutely beautiful and textbook style. So we're real happy with it, and I think we'll have a lot of fun with that feed once I get the other preamp. And this feed also will allow us to do kind of a Dickey switch to further enhance the stability and sensitivity of the system. So we're looking at that right now, but it's ready to go on the radio astronomy right now.
Okay. All right, sounds great. Any questions for Ray on the dish feed?
Yeah, I have a question. What's the noise figure on the preamp?
Preamp is about 0.3 dB, which is about 20 degrees Kelvin.
Thank you.
Okay, before we gets too late, I want to get back to Martin Flynn. He's in New Jersey, 2 hours ahead of us. Martin, do you have any updates on your sending this stuff out? You've been communicating with Paul and some other folks.
Yeah, I have to get everything on the pallet and make arrangements to get it picked up. So we have some fiber. I'm trying to get my guys to put the connectors on it and the lengths you need. There's a 600 footer that's pre-terminated, and I believe it's a 550 that's pre-terminated. The other stuff I have to put connectors on. There's a couple network switches, and I think the core switches are already out there and the racks are out there. We are probably going to have to review what's been shipped so we can gather the rest of the stuff that's been promised and get it on the last pallet, such as the box cameras and things like that.
Okay, Martin, you got my list of the fiber lengths, right?
I do have it. Yep, working off that.
Very good, thank you.
The only other thing that we need to figure out is what are you doing for data storage on site? Because your internet connection really isn't broadband.
Well, we'll probably have a some sort of a server. If it's just a PC, we'll still have, disk space is almost free these days. But we'll have some data storage. Next year, we're supposed to get fiber from the provider, from the internet provider. So that will help, but we should still have sufficient data storage for our experiments as well as our cameras.
Cool. All right.
How much do you figure we might need, Bill?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't figured it out yet.
Okay.
Martin,
let me know if you would when you get a number.
Okay. Yeah, Martin probably has a pretty good idea of how much the cameras need to buffer their storage for a couple of weeks.
Our storage server is currently 22 gigabytes. It's a Dell EMC.
No, I was thinking about data as well. So something in the terabyte region is probably more like it. Huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry, did I just say gigabytes? It's terabytes. It's a
Ah.
storage.
Or
My
tera.
bad.
Yeah.
I'm coming up on hour 18 of my day, so I'm a little.
It's all right.
So
14 terabyte drives are common now. So we
well,
can,
one of the things we've run into is backing that mess up.
yes.
Yep.
So
It needs a RAID. It needs a RAID system.
well, we're running on actual servers that have hardware RAID multi.
Yeah. Right. Right.
So I
So
was
it's
curious with how DSES is approaching it. That's all.
Well, we haven't really approached it yet. I was kind of thinking about a super micro server with a hardware RAID system built in.
Well,
Yep.
realistically, secondary market HP G9s and G10s are with drives are showing up that are cost competitive with rolling your own.
Yeah, we'll
How
have
about noise? How about noise, Martin? Are they noisy enough to drive you out of the building?
yeah, some of these servers are really noisy.
Man, I had one I couldn't even have in my shop. I had to
Well,
essentially get rid of it.
and the other thing is I'm concerned about power usage, because these things are running all the time. And if we have a kilowatt server running all the time, we have to cool for that and pay for the power for it. So
Oh, we might as well put it to work making Bitcoin.
We actually did pretty well on Bitcoin. We did 4 full blocks and sold them off, but that
There
triggered
you go.
it triggered unassociated business income tax for a nonprofit. So that was a nightmare because
Oh yeah, right.
yeah.
What's the internet bandwidth at the site?
Oh, it's terrible. Our internet bandwidth is dismal. It's like oh, I can't even tell you. It's I think it's 3 megabytes up and 13 down.
It's DSL at the end of a very long wire from the local co-op.
Yeah, like a 5-mile wire.
Yeah, so cloud backup's probably not going to work.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah. We're running the radio station, the remote radio station, over the Ethernet and over the network, and we're uploading data to the University of Houston every night from our. I can't remember the name of that experiment. Somebody will have to prompt me on it. But Dan has an experiment he's running with the University of Houston that receives GPS data and looks for changes in the ionosphere. And we upload that every night. And so for what we're doing right now, the 3 megabits per second up is sufficient. However,
Don't forget, Bill, the 2 cameras we got running full time.
It's actually 2 cameras full time and 4 cameras total that we're always uploading. And so they're real time. And we're doing all that inside of 3 megabits per second.
Not bad.
It's not bad, but we could use 10 times that.
Sure. Oh, Martin, I had one question before you go. Do you have anything further on these hydrogen clocks?
Do you want to fill the group in on that so they're not going, what the heck are
well,
I can do that.
I'm thinking an amateur VLA would just be incredible.
Well, we just discussed power consumption. So the reason for the folks that aren't in the loop, I'm on the board of another nonprofit in New Jersey that has another 60-foot dish. So we had turned down a donation of a hydrogen maser clock because we really didn't have a use for it. Well, now we have a use for it, potentially doing a long baseline. What scared the bejesus out of my finance committee was this particular unit we're getting is 3-phase power, 120/208 with a 20 amp dedicated breaker. So it sucks up quite a bit of power. So it's a local ISP is putting it in their data center, and we have dedicated fiber back to our site. If another one becomes available, I'm going to assume I'm asking for another one for DSES, because there is a power issue and you have single phase power on site. It's not 3-phase.
Well, you can fake the 3-phase. Okay, there's reasonable generators that can do that very efficient. But from 220 to, I can run a couple of horsepower motor on the one I have that runs my mill. But
well, before we go down that path of the mazer, we should talk to Rick, K0GD, because Rick is the provider of some very accurate time bases. And I don't know, what do you think about this, Rick?
oh, we have that. We have that already. I can even send you a rubidium if you want one, but that's not good enough to do very long baseline. But if we have a couple of antennas around New Jersey and one in Colorado, we could do amateur VLBI.
Well, that is the direction my team is going in. This went from costing us money to zero, we pulled the trigger on it. But I actually tried using GPS for VBLI, and they're just
not going to work.
No, I've got some real bona fide physicists hitting me over the head explaining why it didn't work or wouldn't work, and I said, well, let me try it anyway, and they were right, it didn't work. So
yeah, right.
The main,
I'm only broaching it, Martin. I just
it's okay to ask. Worst we can do is say nope, can't do it. There's no harm in asking, you know.
I'm just really interested in time, and I'm interested in the hydrogen clock and the ability to perhaps do some BLBI, which would be incredibly interesting too.
It would definitely get the attention of the university folks with bigger budgets than both of ours put together. So,
yeah, but unknowing in this conversation, why don't you define VLBI for everybody?
Very long baseline interferometry.
Yeah.
Like baseline between Colorado and
New Jersey.
And New Jersey.
And Green
we
Bay.
can't quite image a black hole. We can sure do a hell of a job on some other stuff.
Yeah. So real quick, the VBLI takes the signal from two different telescopes and mathematically combines them through a software application called a correlator. And it effectively gives you a radio telescope the size of the distance between the two sites.
Right.
So
it's an interferometer, just longer than hell.
Yeah.
Well, let's see what happens with that. All right. Yeah. So can somebody give me I've shipped a couple switches out. I've shipped some optics with the first load of console pieces. We're going to have to go through that and make, if there's other stuff that we need to get on that last pallet, I'd like to do it in one shot because shipping is getting insane. So, truck freight, you're paying for the volume, not really the weight. So if we can get it all on the last pallet, that's the direction I'd like to go in.
Yeah, I think we've got all the switches we need. The only switch left that we may need is a small switch for one of the interferometers that would convert fiber to, it wouldn't be a switch, it'd be a fiber to Ethernet converter. And the rest of these switches, I think we've got 4 switches, 3 of which I think are functional. The one needs a power supply.
I shipped that to you already. It should be at the farm.
Maybe you did. I don't remember.
Yeah, that one got out of the shop without a power supply. So,
Okay. And so I think we got all the switches we need. Roger was doing some experiments to hook up a network in his shop, and I asked him to hook up the cameras and find the camera software and get that all working, which I don't think he did. So I've got to get back on that. But so I think we're pretty good for the switches. The only thing I'm wondering about is there's one more rack, right? I think we have 5 rack elements. You have one more that you have stuff packed in.
my recollection is there's 3 in the middle and 2 in each section on the end.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, let's do a cross check because
I'll cross check it. But what we
yeah,
would do is get it out of Rick's barn. It's in Rick's barn right now. And we didn't unpack everything because unpacking it, kind of left it vulnerable. And as soon as we get the radio, my plan is on the building, just to let everybody know, is to get the radio room done first, get that 100% complete, and then I'm going to ask everybody to bring all that stuff out and start hooking it up to the dish. And that should come up here in about 3 weeks. And so that'll give us a leg up on getting started on hooking up all the racks and everything. And I want to do this really well so that we don't have a kludge, and get it all installed. And we'll get some countertop and get the countertop on the racks and get a work surface. And then while that's going on, we can be finishing the rest of the building. But if I get the 100% of the radio room done, we're ready to go with all these racks and all the equipment.
Okay, sound like we got a plan. Thanks, Martin, for helping us out. Go ahead.
no worries. That's it for me, folks. Any questions?
No,
Take
thanks
the rest down.
for all
Take
the help, Martin. This is great that we have you on board because you've been there before.
You know what? I'm stealing the knowledge from the folks that went before me, So, all right, I'm gonna go on mute for a bit and then I'm gonna drop off because it's now 20 to 10 here in New Jersey. So have a good night, folks.
Thanks, Martin. Let's move right on. Next on the list was the Hamfest and conference event. I want to get Michelle to do a little more explaining. Hamcom's coming up next weekend in Utah. That's a Rocky Mountain Convention. Is that? Maybe she's busy. Michelle? Can you hear me, Michelle? You're muted. We got a little more explanation, Michelle, on the Rocky Mountain.
Hi there. Sorry, yeah. I had a call there at the inopportune time.
The Rocky Mountain HamCon, is that the convention you're going to representing DSES and your organization?
Yes, it's a HamCon Zion is the nickname for it.
Okay.
And it's coming right up. It'll be this Friday and Saturday, and they have a really nice vendor area with very reasonable club booths, so very accessible to organizations. And then I got the wonderful brochure that was sent to me, and they're printed out and ready to go. And then we made a poster. So we took the PDF and kind of rejiggered it a little bit so that it was, a poster that you can stand up on a table, and then added the QR code. This will take you directly to the DSES join here page. So what I'll do is while I'm at the booth, I'll say, hey, if you like this sort of thing, you can join here. And I think that should work pretty well. So that'll be at the booth. And then also we do have they printed out the brochures on kind of nice paper. And then the membership forms was the other thing that was in the attachment. And we'll print those on ordinary, regular, inexpensive paper. So we'll have a supply. About 500 people are expected. That's how many tickets have been sold so far, which exceeded their expectations. And they are looking at so they were very happy with this. So what I did is I went ahead and took, for an event of this size, what I usually do is rule of thumb, I just say 10% of the expected attendance, and that's the number of things that we'll print out. So 50 of both the brochure and the membership form. And then I'm also, if there's any left over, it just depends. Sometimes the stuff flies off the table. Sometimes sometimes it doesn't. And you know, I'm sure that we'll have lots of conversations about DSES and ORI and all of the different projects. But if there's anything left over, and also the poster will come with me to DEF CON, which is a month later. That's August 12th and 13th. And we have a pretty large space at RF Village, or Radio Frequency Village at DEF CON. And DSES will fit in really well there too. So it's going to be a crowd that's very familiar with radio astronomy, very familiar with amateur radio, lots and lots of hands. So anything left over will go off to DEF CON. So that's the plan.
And where's that going to be held at?
DEF CON's always in Las Vegas. So it'll be Las Vegas. This year it's at the convention center.
All right. Thanks a lot, Michelle. Michelle reached out to us about a month or so ago, wanting to know if anybody from locally would want to travel there. And we are pretty busy here. So she agreed to represent DSES. And we, thanks to Bill, sent all the information to her so she could print that stuff out. So again, thanks a lot, Michelle. Really appreciate it.
No, very happy to help. It's an honor to be able to do it. And I'm really looking forward to talking to people about everything. And I'll keep notes. And I'll try to direct people to the site and to signing up and just emphasize the projects. And I'll report back next time we meet about any, you know, comments or feedback that seems like it should be something to pass along to y'all.
All righty. And I would like maybe in the fall time frame when things kind of settle down a little bit, if you could give a 20-30 minute talk about your business there, ORI, on a science meeting night sometime.
I'd be happy to. That'd be wonderful.
Sounds great. All right. Well, next Ham Fest coming up a couple weeks from now is the Mega Fest here locally in Colorado Springs by the Pikes Peak Amateur Radio Club. It's up in the Monument area. And we have a table for DSES, 2 tables. I rented a total of 7 tables, 2 for me, 2 for DSES. Then we had a couple spares for Rick and Ray. However, they just told me today that they'll probably be going to Southwest Colorado again. So if anybody locally wants to borrow a table to sell stuff at, I'll put a word out to the rest of the folks here locally in Colorado Springs. We can maybe get some more folks, bring a few items down to sell because we'll have some extra tables. So
when was the Mega Fest?
The last Saturday of the month, which is the 27th.
July 27th?
Yeah, July 27th at Palmer High School. And
I think I still have the poster boards, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
I had a question on that. Did you replicate the poster boards, or are we still using mine?
Not yet. No.
Okay. Yeah, we'll have to get those for this event.
Okay. And that is at the end of July. Then at the end of August, there's another Ham Fest up in Denver, and I just made table reservations for Paul and Bill to represent DSES at that event. Last Saturday of August, I believe, which is the 24th, or the second to last Saturday, 24th. So it'll be August 24th. I may or may not be here during that time frame. If I am, I'll try to get up to it. I'm gonna be heading out to Reno that time of year.
That's at the Adams County Fairgrounds.
I'm not sure where that. Bill, where's that one at? Do you remember?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Okay. All right.
Hey, Bill. Once I get back into town, I have to take my car down to Colorado Springs for service, and so maybe I can combine that trip and stop by your house and drop them off or something.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be good.
And we have an EME conference coming up, and Alex, you're going to attend that one, aren't you, with Roger? The EME conference on the East Coast in New Jersey.
That was Paul and Roger, right?
Yeah. No, I think it's Alex. Alex, were you going to the EME conference?
Yeah, me, Roger, and Paul, 3 of us.
Okay. Oh, Paul's going as well. Okay. Paul, and I knew Roger's going. I didn't know you were going to go, Paul. So that's good. Again, brochures and information posters. I'm not sure what they will allow at this thing unless you make advanced reservations for it. but,
And when is that conference?
latter part of August, from my understanding, isn't it? Paul? Alex, do you know what date that is, EME conference?
As first week of August.
August. Oh, first week of August.
Yeah, I think it's on 8th, 9th.
Okay. All right. There's another conference coming up, but microwave update, and I can't remember where that's at this year. Central States VHF conference is the same weekend as the Hamfest here locally. That's in Council Bluffs, Iowa. I don't think anybody's going to go to that one. Are you going, Bill? No. Okay.
No,
All right. And it's been a while since I've been one of those, so they're quite interesting. They rotate around. So that's all I got on the agenda for the Hamfest conferences. Anybody else have any information coming up that we just covered? So the next on the list is financial updates and membership. Quick membership for I think 102 people now at DSES. We've broached the 100 mark, which is a great number here that we've never seen before. About 3 times as many folks since Ray and I joined 14 years ago. So things are progressing in the positive way. Update wise financial, we got said before we had over $4,000 donation for the dish. We still have roughly a lot of money left in the building fund, although it's dwindling after we do this current contract with the guy for the interior work will be down to around 50,000. So we got to watch our pennies towards the end there, so we make sure we can finish the building. One other thing, we got an estimate, and I'm not sure how we're going to fund this, whether it's going to be funded in a grant for the EVE project, was the power to the dish feed. We got an estimate on putting 240 volts, 20 amps or 30 amps at the dish feed for amplifiers. So that's still in the preliminary stage. I'm not sure when we're going to do that, or how we're going to pay for it, or the board hasn't really talked about that, but is that part of the grant for the EVE project, or how are we going to do that?
Yeah, it would have to be part of EVE project, because I don't think we can cover it out with building.
Yeah, but that is a extra power at the dish, and hopefully we can get that accomplished with the grant. So we have a lot of things on our plate going on. Any other questions on tonight's meeting?
I guess I do have a question.
Sure.
So I'm wondering how to match up, people's skills and interests with needs. So I've heard a number of things that I'm pretty interested in, have some background in, such as time and frequency synchronization and, general electronics and so on. I'm just not sure how I can help. I haven't seen really a needs list other than, asking for money. That's fine too, but other kinds of, more technical work.
Would somebody like to comment on what, as far
Do
as
you-
that? Go
Do you
ahead.
have a needs list somewhere?
Well, James, I kind of keep a running list of all the site stuff. Most of this has to do with the building, and what's coming up is the hookup. So when we get the racks into the building and the hole cut in the pedestal, and we need to run coaxes and a lot of connections and patch panels and all of that to the dish. And so I don't know, are you local? Are you in Denver?
Yeah.
So, any help that you could provide with getting the dish reconnected to the building coming up here in probably August would be good. But a lot of that is just manual labor of running, getting things connected.
Sure.
And so I'm asking everybody to keep in mind what we need for that. I'm not real sure everything that we have already from the trailer to the dish, but we need to replicate that for the new building so we don't take the trailer offline while we're getting this done. Because we just never know, the problems we'll encounter. So I'd like to see, the coaxes get defined and the control wires and all of that work and materials be defined of what we have to get from the building to the dish.
James, if you are interested in time and frequency, get a hold of me. K0GD, you can look me up on QRZ, or just send a note to board and I'll get it with your interest list. But time and frequency is an area I have some expertise in, both professionally and as a hobby.
Well, and I can, I can definitely help with labor as well. Once years ago, I had a electrician's license in California, not any longer, but that's not really what I do, but I can definitely do wiring, network stuff and all that kind of thing. So like I said, if you publish a list of what's needed and have some dates organized and things like that, I'd be happy to help.
I have a comment.
Go ahead, Ted.
This is Ted Klein way up here in Loveland, Colorado. I have an ongoing need for software support for Microsoft.NET compiling, if anyone has skill with that, for the radio astronomy community. Microsoft.NET compiling. That's our problem. Yep. Thanks very much. Okay.
I have a question. What was the estimate for the 220 to the focal point? I've forgotten. Was that about $1,600 or so?
We're like 16,000. Ray, do you remember? You got that estimate back. Ray or Myron, I don't remember.
It passed by my head and I've forgotten what it was.
Yeah.
16 grand?
For what now? For estimate for what now?
The 220 up, 220,
I thought it was in 12 range.
12,000?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Geez, I'll go down to Lowe's and buy some extension cords. We'll fix it right up.
Well, that's what we have now.
That's what we
I
got
mean,
now. Yeah.
my God, that's absolutely outrageous.
Yeah. Well,
what they asked him to do was wire it all the way from the building through an extra breaker box in the pedestal, up the pedestal, around all the bends, and it has to be articulated in the mount.
Yeah.
And up inside of a conduit to the feed point. And I think it was both 220 and a single 120 volt line to power whatever we put up there.
Yeah, it's a little
okay.
bit.
So I mean, it's not just running the a wire and what we already have. It's adding conduit and everything to what we already have, and making a flexible joint that can articulate in 2 axes.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other comments or questions for the group? Yeah, we'll as Bill gets to the point where he'll need extra help and we'll need people down there to start shuffling the equipment around to the right spot so we can start hooking things up. Hopefully we can get some planned dates for that event, and we'll accept any help coming our way.
Yeah, Myron?
Yes.
Yeah, we could probably, I know for sure we could use somebody to kind of spearhead the interferometer project that we have on site down there, the 2 dishes. We still have to get another dish. We have it available. We haven't gotten the manpower to get it yet. Yeah, from Colorado Springs, and then install it down at Haswell, and then hook the two up, and we'll learn something about interferometer in the process and how to go about all of that. And then we also need somebody to kind of spearhead getting this new dish that we just got put back into shape and assembled on the ground and getting ready for a concrete pad of sufficient height, little engineering there of sufficient size, and then getting the whole process and putting that dish up in the air. And then we've got to hook up the big dish, the 60-footer, all of that kind of cabling into the new building. We've got several big projects like that that really beg for somebody to kind of say, hey, I'll take that on, spearhead it. And we got, we'll get labor as we go along, but somebody to kind of keep track of the project and spearhead it, I think, anyway.
Yeah, that interferometer dish, we need to get on that before things change. On that, it's available, there's easy access to get to. We just need to get 4 or 5 folks down there to do it.
Yeah, it would be if we had 6 or 8, wouldn't be too few because too many, because we have to lift the dish, and it's fiberglass, comes in 3 different pieces, 13-foot diameter, roughly a 3.8 meter. And but it's reasonably heavy, and we take it apart and then put it on the trailer. We can put it all on my trailer. We've done that before.
Yeah.
And then we'll haul it down to Haswell and then reassemble it once we get down there, which will take about as many, 4, 6, 8 people.
Yeah.
And then put it on the pedestal. And we need to get we have the concrete in the ground down there. We have the mount, but we don't have the mount bolted into the concrete yet, which is a major step before we actually put the other dish back up.
Yeah, it's about a 400-pound mount, isn't it? It's pretty heavy. Hunk of iron there we need to mount on the bolts.
Yeah, it's sitting down there right in place. All we got to do is put anchor bolts down, and you'll drill the concrete, put the anchor bolts in, and seal it back up again and bolt her down.
Yeah, that's all. I actually had the anchor bolts rigged so he could just embed them in the concrete, and he decided not to do that. Came back later and said, "You want me to drill that in?" And I says, "What I really need you to do is cover the trench, the power trench, before you do that." And same here. I mean, the interferometer, in my view, is the last priority compared to getting the building hooked up to the dish and getting the building done. So I'd like to see those things spearheaded first.
Well, my concern is getting the dish out from its present location.
Yeah, but if you got 6 guys for 2 days, I could sure use those on site.
I'm just removing it from the radio station, because if things change or arrays work and it's no longer available, you never know when these radio stations are going to change ownership.
Yep.
And so we need to get that while it's still available. Whether we, take it down there now and just leave it set till we get time to put it up, but just acquiring it, just like this 30-foot dish, if we didn't take it, it was going to be scrapped.
Yeah.
Who's saying that somebody's going to get a wild hair and say, get rid of that dish, and next thing we know, we're down there to take it down and it's gone.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but I mean, those are all jobs that could be coordinated by somebody who's not really here necessarily.
Yeah, something to think about. We got the open house coming up on I believe the 6th of October. And we'd like to have the system or the building completed and the dish attached to the consoles by the 6th of October. So think about that.
Yeah, that's, you really think that could happen?
Yes. If we don't keep screwing around with all this other side projects.
Well, yeah, that's true.
I mean, everybody's anxious to get this building done. Well, let's get it done.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it needs to get done. I'm just, the contractor's screwing around too. That's why we need to get that guy we talked about earlier, Bill, and get him lined up. And
yep, I just sent him a note to start.
Paul, do you have anything on the open house? Is Michelle and Haswell taking care of that? Earth to Paul. You must be working DX on 6 meters. Well, I don't have much more to say. Anybody else got anything to bring up? We're starting to lose folks here. Michael, you still traveling around the country? Yeah.
Yeah, I was I was all over the place when y'all were doing the dish thing. I went Hawaii to Vermont to Canada to California to Arkansas and just back and forth, so I haven't really been available for anything. Want to get down and help out with some things, but it's going to be all time-based management in between having to, hop back and forth state to state.
Yeah, understand. Well, appreciate all you've done in the past, and I know you're a busy guy. And Rick, did you get that name I sent you? I emailed you. I emailed you his call sign and his name, and hopefully that'll suffice for Elaine to finish that report. So I don't have much more. It's pushing 8 o'clock. It might be a short meeting. We've got a science meeting coming up at the end of the month. And that is the 22nd. We got 5 Mondays in this month, so the 22nd. I may or may not be here. I'm gonna try to go to Fairbanks on the 16th or 17th for a week, 10 days. Paul, the open house. Have you coordinating with Michelle?
Yeah, it's officially October the 5th.
The 5th, okay.
Yep.
All right. And brochures and posters and notifications sometime a month prior.
Yeah, Roger that. Yeah, the month before. And we'll probably, so let me think, something I was going to do. Oh yeah, this Wednesday, I'm going to be at the PPRA meeting at Golden Corral in Colorado Springs.
Oh, okay.
And I'll be presenting the presentation that we're going to try to do in a month in New Jersey.
Oh, okay.
At the International EME conference in Trenton.
Is Roger going to help you with that as well?
Yeah. Roger and Alex, of course. Alex going to do part of the presentation, and Roger's going to do some, and then I do the kind of the tail end of it. Just kind of talk about here's the software that we used at for DDR, for the DUBIS contest. So that's just kind of that part.
Gonna be a tag team event.
Yeah, so here's a story. I was on the moon.net group.io, and there was the guys from the EME conference were asking for suggestions for the 2026. They do this thing every 2 years, and so one guy suggested that they go to the Paris, somewhere in Paris, or to the Basque region of France, is for the next conference in 2026. And I said, so I said, guys, how about Pueblo? I said, we got, there's a conference center, it's close, there's a river, there's all kinds of stuff, and it's cheaper. And you can fly there from Denver and from anywhere in the world. And so anyway, they said, hey, that's a great idea, Paul. Please prepare a presentation for us at the end of this year's conference in New Trenton. So now they want me to present doing Pueblo. And so I said, oh my God.
Yeah,
so
that's a big undertaking.
Yeah, so I'm
a lot of man hours.
But I said, yeah, you're with DSES. Well, can't you guys no.
No. Yeah.
I don't know what to do, but it would be one way to get us up on the board.
Ray's done Central States VHF years ago in Colorado Springs, and it's not a small task. It's a big undertaking. Pueblo would be probably cheaper than Colorado Springs as far as.
I figured the Pueblo, what do you call it, Department of Commerce or whatever it is, that tourism, they would have to give us all kinds of stuff. And I said, it's not that far from from Haswell. And now I'm beginning to think everything's relative, right? I mean, Ignacio is not far from Denver, right? It's
No,
7 hours.
I spent 3 nights in Paris last month. I wouldn't mind going over there.
Byron,
Yeah,
I have new news.
okay,
Brand new news. As of this moment, the manual for the dish has been located.
good. Fantastic.
We'll pick it up when we go to Ignacio later in the month.
Yeah. Gonna Velcro that to your chest so we don't lose it again.
Yeah, I sure would like to read that manual.
Yeah, that's great. Well, that probably have some engineering information in there as well on installing. So that's fantastic. Yeah, that was Andre said it was given to one of his workers. One of his workers took it back, gave it to the lady who does the per diem pay, and it should have gone to Andre, and he didn't get it, and he was trying to find it in a bunch of boxes somewhere in the business in Arkansas. So that's great news.
Yep.
So, all right, that's all I got for now. Good evening, everyone. Feel free to stick around for a while and talk whatever you want to talk about.
I see a note from Jason Quintanin. Who's got the other Juno receiver that we borrowed from his uncle? Does anybody remember that?
I certainly do. It's down in Haswell in the trailer. And we have 2 of them at my house here, both working. So we have 3 Juno receivers. And so anybody wants one, we've got them.
Yeah, we need to send one to back to, I can't remember your uncle's name, Jason.
Yeah, give us that information, Jason, and in the chat room there.
Yeah,
He
we
said
can.
pick it up at the open house.
Yeah, that'll work. We can do that.
Yeah, okay.